Hey, hello. I know it's been a while since I've done one of these videos. I just got super busy with life. But I'm hoping to get back into YouTube and BookTube and sharing my love of books. So if you're new here, welcome. If you are not, welcome back. I'm Chelsea. Welcome to my BookTube channel. So I did a video a while ago about how I wanted to get more into classics and what some of the classic books I wanted to read were. I did not get to all of them. I did read quite a few classics since that video though. And I am not a classics girly. I have been trying to get more into classics, but honestly they kind of scare me. I thought today I would share some good classics if you're like me and are new to the classic genre or don't know where to start. These are some classics that I've read that I have loved and I feel like they're very beginner friendly. So let's get straight into it. 5 classics, yeah, I think are great. Oh, where to start? Okay, I'll start with one that I think I've probably mentioned before because it is maybe one of my all-time favorite books. And that is, of course, The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. Love her. I don't know that there's much more to say than that. I found the book very easy to read. It gripped me. I know it's a little slow, but somehow that did not deter me. I was engrossed in this book and I loved the writing style of this book and I just loved everything about The Handmaid's Tale. I don't know if I need to explain The Handmaid's Tale because I feel like everybody and their mother has read this book or has seen the TV show or just knows the general premise. It is essentially a dystopian novel where there's a declining birth rate it's like a made-up place in the United States called the Republic of Guild, something like that. And so women are essentially forced to have one role, and that is to bear children. It is unfortunately quite realistic and timely for 2025. This is one of those things where people were hoping that this would never happen, and it's not far off from reality, unfortunately. I don't think I did a very good job of describing The Handmaid's Tale. There's so much more that goes into that story, but I feel like everybody knows it. So I don't think I need to go in depth on that one. Next up, I have another story that I absolutely adore. And I just read this one last year. I was intimidated by it, but honestly, it is also probably become one of my favorite books of all time. And that is Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. Love this book. This book is, she's a long one, but what to say about Rebecca? I loved the story and the writing was beautiful. I see this book feels a little slow at times, but there's just so much like depth to the story. So if you don't know, Rebecca is about a woman who marries a man, a very rich man. We don't really know her real name. She's just referred to as Mrs. De Winter. But she essentially is on vacation in Europe with some woman that she works for, and she meets Mr. De Winter, who is some sort of infamous character within this world, and he lives at a beautiful mansion, I guess you could say, I don't know, estate maybe, called Manderley. And Manderley is very much a character of its own. But anyway, she ends up marrying Mr. De Winter and becomes Mrs. De Winter. However, he has a wife, he had a wife who died sort of under mysterious circumstances, and her name is Rebecca. she is Rebecca. She is a central part of this story. Mrs. De Winter, the new Mrs. De Winter, sort of becomes haunted, I guess you could say. There's no actual ghosts in this book, but it is very clear that Rebecca's presence is still within Manderley, and she is very much still a part of Mr. De Winter's life. And everybody who works at Manderley is still very much influenced by Rebecca. And there's a lot that goes on. The ending of that book had me. And there are some twists and turns that you don't really see coming in Rebecca, and love that book. Highly recommend for somebody new to classics, because it's really easy to digest, and it's such an interesting story, and it's a classic for a reason. I understand now. I truly do. This next one might be a little unconventional. I rarely hear people say that this is their favorite book. I do love this book. It's not for everybody though. Just go into this knowing that. And that is Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. Love this book. The writing style is, it takes a minute to get into, but I had no trouble with it. This book was probably one of the first classics that I read that I loved, and that I've actually read this book maybe 2 or 3 times now. It's a really short one, which makes it easy to read because it's like maybe 200 pages. So that's part of what makes it a good beginner classic, probably. But this is the story of Charlie. He is a man who has developmental challenges. He has an intellectual disability, and he just so wants to be like everybody else. He so wants to understand the jokes that his coworkers, he works in a bakery, and his coworkers are quite cruel, but he doesn't know that because he doesn't understand a lot of what they're saying, and he doesn't understand their jokes or their sarcasm. And so he just really wants to connect more with people, and he is dying to be normal. So there's like an experiment type situation where he is able to be sort of almost like a test, like a guinea pig for a new sort of scientific thing that can make him smart and more normal. Algernon is a mouse that is also going through this sort of scientific test. Charlie and Algernon sort of build a connection because they're both going through this interesting change. They're going through changes sort of together. But the reason that this book is sort of hard to read is because it's told from the perspective of Charlie, and in the beginning of the book, Charlie does have intellectual disabilities. So the writing style it's hard to read because the spelling isn't right, the grammar isn't right. It's kind of hard, but once you get through a couple of chapters, it kind of flows a bit more. And then once the science experiment type thing takes place, he becomes essentially a genius. So then it's super easy to read. But I got so much out of this book. I thought the character development for a book that's only 200 pages was really good. And the story was beautiful and sad, and it just, it shows that, you know, there are some things in life that you really want, but sometimes things are the way they're supposed to be. Sometimes things are the way they are, and they're meant to be that way. And that's sort of what I got from that book. I love that book. But again, the writing style is not for everybody for that one. But I think it's a great classic for a beginner because it's super short. Next, I have my most recent sort of classic that I've read. And the more I think about this book and everything that went on in it and all of the characters and the sort of nuances of the story and just the small little details makes me love it so much more. I will say this, out of all of these books, this is probably the most hefty book. I think it's over 500 pages, It's also probably got the most maybe going on. There's a lot of story and there's almost different stories going on in this one, maybe like 2 different stories. It's written in a really interesting style. Anyway, this story is, the book I want to recommend is John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath. This is a mammoth of a book, but there is so much just goodies in here. This is, yeah, the more I think about this book, the more I love it, essentially. This is a story, it takes place during the Great sort of Depression era, the 1940s, I think. I can't quite remember the exact year, but it takes place during economic turmoil, essentially. Everybody is poor, everybody is struggling, but the story surrounds one family, the Joads. The main sort of character, I guess, would be Tom Joad. Yeah, the main story focuses around Tom Joad and his family. They are from Oklahoma. Tom is recently returning from jail, and he is returning to his family, and they are not there. They have gone off to search for a better life. They're from Oklahoma, but they are heading towards California because they hear that that's where there is jobs. That's where they can make money and make a living and sustain themselves. They are a relatively large family. I mean, there's a grandpa, there's a grandma, there's his ma, his pa. That's all they're referred to as, pa and ma. He has a sister who has a very strange name. It's like I think it's biblical or something. Rosa Sharon. Interesting name. Anyway, this story packs a lot. There is a lot that happens here. He essentially meets up with his family and they all decide to go to California together to try and make a living, which is very difficult at this time. So they essentially make their way to California. There's a lot that goes on in California. Things are not all how they had hoped it would be. There is just so much character development in this one. And it really is a character story. It is written interestingly. You get a chapter essentially from the perspective of the Joads, and then you get a chapter that sort of describes, I guess, what is happening at the time. What is going on? What is the sort of, you get an idea of the background of why things are the way they are, why people are struggling so much. You get the greed, the capitalism, you get to understand all of these wonderful things through the beautiful writings of John Steinbeck. He does such a beautiful job of writing this book. It is exquisite. I also really loved the female characters in this one. They are sort of, more than Tom, the heroes of the story. Ma really keeps the family together. She is probably the only one who's really keeping everybody to keep going when things get tough. And then his sister, Rosa Sharon, who the last scene of this book, the very last page. If you know, you know, and if you don't, read this book and you will know. Because I still think about it. I don't know that scene will ever leave my head. But Rose of Sharon, God bless her soul. That was her character development in that book. Chef's kiss. John Steinbeck, good job. I understand why that is a classic, and I really look forward to reading more of his. I really want to read East of Eden. I've heard that one is one of his best. So I think he's most known for Mice of Men, maybe? Or maybe The Grapes of Wrath. I'm not really sure what his... He just had a whole bunch of bangers. Good for you, John. Last book on this list, it's a relatively recent read for me, and that is Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. This was a really beautiful story of, and also a really hard story. This book is, it's of all the books that I recommended, this one is maybe the hardest. This one and probably The Handmaid's Tale. It's just dark. It's not dark. I don't know how to describe it. There are some scenes that are hard to read. But anyway, The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison is about a young black girl living in Ohio in the 1940s, and she really, really wants to be like the other girls in her class who have blonde hair and blue eyes. She wants to be beautiful. She wants, you know, these are the types of people in this society, in this book, who are sort of seen as the ideal, you know? And that's what this girl wants to be. But she has a sad story. And this book is just beautifully written. It's a good beginner classic because it is, despite some hard scenes, it is really easy to read. And it's also super short. It's only 200 pages. So this is another good one if you're looking to get into classics as a beginner. This one, there's a lot in here for only 200 pages, and it's absolutely beautiful. That's it. 5 books, 5 classics that if you're a beginner, these are the ones I would recommend to you. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, maybe consider giving me a like and maybe a subscribe. And until next time, bye.